What's up, travelers? It's Eliz from Means to Travel, and today I'm here in London, England. I've got the Parliament building directly behind me, and I thought I would quickly film a few videos. One of them is this video right here, and today we're going to be talking about my 10 must-know tips before your visit to London. So London is one of my absolute favorite cities. I studied abroad here when I was at university, and ever since then, it's been 13 years, I think, since I left. I've come back about every year, every other year on average since, and this feels like my home away from home. It's definitely my Europe home base. For that reason, I feel like I've really gotten to know this city and love sharing about it and love helping people visit. So, with all that said, one caveat real quick, I am an American, so all of these tips are going to be must-knows with an American lens. If you're British, maybe some of these will feel a little bit more familiar. And then on top of that, I feel like these are not an exhaustive list. I might make a follow-up video with 10 more tips that comes out after my next trip to London or something like that if you guys like this video. So hopefully you guys are going to really enjoy these 10 tips, and let's just jump right in. The first tip that I'm going to be talking about is that cash and coins here actually carry a lot more value typically than especially coins in the US and in several other countries. So in the US, you're going to find our highest value common coin is the quarter, which is a quarter of a dollar. But here in the UK, there's tons of different values of coins beyond just the 4 types that we have in the States, and it goes up to £1 or even £2. So definitely be aware that coins have a lot of value, and you don't want to just kind of like be throwing them away and throwing them around. And then on top of that, the second tip that I'm going to have has to do with coins too, and that's that you want to keep more coins on your person than you usually typically would when you are in the States. So the reasons why you would want that, there's several different scenarios. I'm sure there's ones that I'm not even thinking of, but as a tourist, the ones you run into the most are going to the bathroom. So the public bathrooms that are typically found all throughout London are pay operated. So you would take out coins from your wallet and pay to use them. Then another reason that you might run into this is that you might be eating at a restaurant, and the tipping culture is different here than in the US, and oftentimes if you do leave a tip, you're going to leave coins or cash on the table and not be able to add it to your bill with the credit card. So be sure to carry some coins with you so that way you can leave them for any good service that you have. It's later in the day and the sun keeps changing around, so I just had to move the camera. Hopefully you guys can see me all right. But let's just keep going with our must-knows. My next tip that I'm going to share is if you've visited London before, you know that the tube pass that you use to tap in and tap out to use the subway here, the tube, is called an Oyster card. It's blue, it says Oyster on the front. And what's important to remember about the Oyster card is that it actually doesn't expire. So I keep bringing back my same Oyster card that I've been using for the past decade every time I come to visit London, and I'm able to just reload it. Mine even still had 90 pence on it from my last trip, and it still registers. The money doesn't expire, the card doesn't expire like a lot of the cards typically do, say, at New York City subways. So be sure to save your Oyster card after a trip just in case you come back, even if you're not expecting to. Maybe you're going to come back 20 years from now, we don't know. And you're definitely not going to regret bringing back your Oyster card because it does cost money to get a new one. By the way, if you guys are liking this video so far, it really helps out my channel more than you know if you press that thumbs up button down below and also the red subscribe button. It helps support the free travel content that I put out on YouTube and just means the world. So thank you in advance for that. The next must-know that I'm going to be talking about is that, well, first of all, the public transit system here in London is phenomenal. Most people don't even own cars because they can get pretty much anywhere throughout London. Easy peasy, just using public transit, not even Ubers or taxis. That being said, there are ways to leverage technology in order to make the public transit system even more easy to use. So for example, if you want to go from point A to point B, one app that I recommend looking into downloading before your trip is City Mapper, which you can type in exactly where you want to go from and where you want to go to, and it's going to give you all the public transit options that you can take in order to do that. So how cool is that, by the way? Also leverage Google Maps. Bring your phone for navigation purposes so you can map yourself around the city really easily and efficiently. And speaking of Google Maps, so my next tip is that always make sure you budget more time to get from point A to point B, whether you're in a taxi, whether you're in the tube, than Google Maps says, because Google Maps is assuming nothing's going to go wrong, there's going to be no delay, there's going to be no wait on the subway, that sort of thing. And lo and behold, you're often going to find that there's something that kind of like trips you up. Maybe you walk the wrong way down a street, that sort of thing. So be sure to give yourself a little bit of extra time to get to all your meetings, to get to all your appointments, so that way you don't have any issues with your schedule. Okay, the next know before you go tip that I'm going to be sharing is, even if you don't have pollen allergies or pollution allergies or something like that, I highly recommend packing some sort of little bag of Kleenex in your day pack with you or in your pocket. I find that the air quality in this city isn't as great, especially in central London, especially if you're riding the tube, especially the Northern Line. I don't know what it is about the Northern Line, but I just feel like my sinuses start to get a little scratchy and runny and that sort of thing. And I know it happens to almost everybody else that I've traveled with too. So even if you don't have allergies per se, or don't think you will, packing an allergy medication and packing Kleenex with you is going to potentially make your trip a little bit more comfortable. Great, and the next must know is, with what you want to see and what's on your itinerary, be sure to map everything out in advance, and be sure to group your days to what attractions are in closest proximity to each other. So instead of being like, okay, we're gonna do all of the historical sites on this day and then all the museums on the next day, like, no, don't do that. Figure out which ones are closest to each other and only stick within one neighborhood, because this city is absolutely massive, and I don't want you to be running all over the city and wasting time in transit, because then you're just going to constantly be in transit your entire trip and not seeing all the things. So make sure that your itinerary is kind of grouped according to geography. And speaking of historical attractions that you might want to visit, be sure to arrive early at a lot of the ones that are true must-sees on your list. So my favorite one to visit is the Tower of London. My absolute favorite. I think everybody who visits London should go there because it has so much history, royal stuff. It used to be a prison. It now houses the crown jewels. That was a tangent, but I think you should definitely arrive early when you do go to places like that. Also, when you go there, because you can get the earliest tours that won't necessarily be as crowded, but also you can go see the exact things that you want to see inside of those places without as many crowds. So for example, I always recommend to people that when you do go to the Tower of London, once you enter first thing of the day, just book it all the way to the Crown Jewels, which is on the opposite side of the Tower's campus. And so that way you kind of get more time than the average tourist with the Crown Jewels themselves. You can actually like see them a little bit longer, and then go join a Beefeater tour, learn about everything. You're gonna have a great time. This same strategy goes for visiting, say, Buckingham Palace for changing of the guard. You're gonna wanna arrive extremely early. Like, I'm talking 2 hours early in order to get a seat with a good view, especially if you have kids, because it gets very crowded very quickly. So in order to optimize your viewing of these places, of these sites, certainly be sure to budget in that time that you can arrive first thing in the day. The next thing to know when you are visiting London is, so first of all, you can drink tap water here. You can totally drink out of the tap. It is perfectly clean and safe. That being said, when you arrive at a restaurant, they're likely going to ask you still or sparkling. And sparkling water is very common here and definitely not offered in the States at restaurants typically, especially as like one of the first go-tos. But you can definitely order still water, and still water typically is tap, but just make sure when you are answering, especially if you're in a fancy place, you can ask like, are you talking about mineral water that comes in a bottle? Are you talking about tap water? Because tap water you typically don't have to pay for, but a bottle of mineral water you would. So just be sure to differentiate which water you are ordering and know whether you want sparkling when you go to restaurants here. Great, and the very last must-know tip that I'm going to be sharing with you guys for your trip to London, the 10th one, is that when you are plugging things into the walls here, especially when you're in your hotel room, if your plug doesn't work, even though you're using the correct adapter, that sort of thing, take a look to see if there's a little switch on the plate next to the plug itself. And what's really common here is the ability to turn on and off an outlet with a little switch that looks like our version, the American version of a light switch. And the switch is typically on the outlet itself. That being said, I have been to Airbnbs outside of London, and specifically one in Cornwall, that there was a switch to turn on and off the stove top. Oh my goodness, I had never thought of that. It's interesting how appliances can turn on and off with a switch that's on the wall or the actual outlets themselves. So you might need to press the outlet to turn it on top of plugging in your devices. So be on the lookout for that, be prepared for that. Definitely not something that is necessarily intuitive to all foreigners such as myself, so I wanted to give you a heads up about that. So I hope you guys like my 10 must-know tips. If you guys have any must-knows, I know a lot of you all have either been to London before or are from the UK yourselves. Please add them in the comment section down below. We love learning from each other on this channel and this Means to Travel community, and I want to hear what you guys also say about what people should know when they visit London. With that said too, please press that thumbs up button down below and the red subscribe button again. It really helps out the channel, and it makes sure that you don't miss any of the UK travel vlogs and tips that I share on this channel and all of the other travel videos that I create. And thanks so much for watching. Cheers, happy travels, and enjoy your trip to London. Bye. So much noise, oh my God. Helicopters, double-decker buses, coach buses. There's a construction vehicle. What is happening? This is nuts.
Hey travelers, don't forget to subscribe and let's hang out more. Here are some links to other helpful travel videos on my channel, and press that notification bell so you don't miss any new and awesome travel videos to come.